Welcome to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.
Today we'll be talking about metaphors in the context of artificial intelligence, notably about the central metaphor of intelligence and how it frames both our minds and the future development of AI. So, stay tuned.
Metaphors are figures of speech that help us compare one thing with another, and they're great at packaging all that meaning and knowledge, but they can also trap us in a certain way of thinking.
The problem is, they can become so powerful that it becomes extremely difficult to imagine or discuss their subject in other terms, limiting both its understanding and development.
And discussions on artificial intelligence are absolutely full of metaphors, starting with the concept of intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Indeed. The idea that computers resemble the brain and could thus evolve to perform similar tasks prompted the first scholars to use this term when referring to AI.
Truth is that metaphors have linked minds and machines for centuries. From hydraulics to telegraphs, and most recently computers, we have long made faulty comparisons of the brain to the key technologies of our times.
So, the metaphors of machine vision, learning, recognition, and understanding suggest that machines can see, learn, recognize, even feel in pretty much the same way humans do, which is not only misleading, but also false.
I understand.
But the comparison is so well established that since Alan Turing in the 1950s devised a test to determine whether or not a computer is capable of thinking like a human being, the advancement of AI has continually been measured against human performance of the same tasks.
Now, this poses serious limitations and risks. To begin with, since human intelligence is itself a subjective and contested concept, the concept of AI is also destined for constant debate and reinterpretation.
Secondly, by defining AI with reference to how we evaluate its performance, so its intelligence, rather than by what it can do, so its applications, or how it can do it via different techniques, the term AI can refer to almost any technology from thermostats to terminators, whether they exist or not.
And using the same word to refer to all of them can be very confusing. So, aware of these limitations, technologists often use more precise alternatives to the general term of artificial intelligence, such as machine learning, expert systems, or statistics.
Using the intelligence metaphor also poses risks to the future development of this group of technologies. For example, it might tempt us to overestimate what AI systems and tools can do and entrust them with tasks they're simply not capable of performing.
I do not understand.
And when something goes wrong, we might be tempted to elude responsibilities and blame it on the machine itself.
Exactly. But perhaps the most worrying risk is that by asking them to do things like humans, we are actually putting these systems in direct competition with us. So it becomes like a race. Who will do it better, faster, and more efficiently? Machines or humans?
When it should actually be about cooperation and performing complementary tasks instead of competing over the same ones.
Indeed. And we often hear this race metaphor used to describe AI development, such as the global AI race, where the EU is struggling for a bronze medal behind the USA and China. But a race implies a single finish line with a single winner, and lots of losers.
And if we always think of European AI development as a race, we might feel compelled to speed up and follow the direction of those we think are in front of us, rather than deciding on our own path.
So what this conceptualization fails to capture is that artificial intelligence is a whole group of technologies and applications used by different actors in different fields, with different needs, priorities, and expectations. But instead of competing with each other, it may be more useful to think about AI developments worldwide in terms of cooperation, sharing, and mutual benefits.
There is also no one path to be followed when we think about the future of AI, nor one yardstick against which to measure success, So, perhaps, instead of relying on human-inspired metaphors such as intelligence or trust when we think about AI, we could come up with new metaphors that describe it in its own terms.
This would allow us to articulate more ambitious visions for the future of AI, focused on cooperating rather than competing with humans.
And while at it, wouldn't a sort of AI Olympics be a better metaphor to describe international cooperation in this field than that of a race?
There's certainly enough food for thought. And if you want to know more, check the publications on the EPRS and STOA websites.
This is a European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.
Thanks for listening.